Are you ready for another very long video about Pokemon Unite? What's that? You're just going to go into the description, find the timestamp of your favorite Pokemon, yoink the moveset, and peace out? That's fair, but it's really bad for the algorithm, so if you could leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and share this video with all your friends, it'll really help out the video, and it will offset people just kind of like, I just want to look up 2 movesets and I'm out regardless of this 40-minute video. But I understand, because if you don't want to play Pikachu, then why do you need the Pikachu information? Some people will watch the entire video because it helps out for understanding what people are most likely to build and also what the goals of the opposing Pokemon are, which helps for counterplay. But there's a lot of Pokemon, there's a lot of information, so I understand if people don't want to get into all that just yet. Also, this video is meant to work with my last video, which talks about item builds for every single Pokemon, so we have a lot of content about Pokemon Unite. I love talking about it, I love the theory craft, I love breaking it down, I love the analysis, I like finding optimal play. So with that, let's get into it on the Venusaur. So Giga Drain Petal Dance just got buffed, and it seems to be the go-to moveset right now. Petal Dance, you run into the team, it gives you a speed boost. It lets you zoom at some opposing Pokemon with a large area of effect to tag a lot of damage, but if we remove this and we head on over here, we can see that Venusaur is an attacker, and it has low endurance, so it's a kind of weird idea on the moveset, but then Giga Drain, it makes it to where you have flat reduction of damage, and that's where we're going to bring out Pokemon Unite character database, or unite-db.com. Been using it a lot because we actually have the stats, the scaling, all of that other fun stuff. Venusaur takes 40% reduced damage for a short time, but Giga Drain also heals because that's kind of how the move works. And every time you tick for Petal Dance, it reduces the cooldown of Giga Drain. So by doing that, you effectively always have that 40% cooldown reduction if you're inside the fight, and you can auto-attack while using it, which is why people like Muscle Band or auto-attack focused items on the Venusaur, since the scaling isn't really too crazy. If you go Wise Glasses, you're adding like 100 damage. Little more than that or something. So like you just get more damage from auto attacks and boosted auto attacks off of a muscle band or a crit from a scope lens or something. So that's what you want to keep in mind. But yeah, this is just how you have fun on the Venusaur. It was the Rapid Spout before Rapid Spout exists, which also made Venusaur just feel more out of place when Blastoise came into the game. As for the Sludge Bomb Solar Beam moveset, it's just not really satisfying. Solar Beam does get a reduced cooldown at level 13, but that's the thing about this moveset. You have to be ahead on Venusaur for it to work. If you start falling behind, the damage from Solar Beam, even though it's a lot, it stops feeling like a lot because a higher level Pokemon just collapses on you and you're a completely helpless Venusaur at that point. People like pairing it with the Sludge Bomb, but Sludge Bomb just lowers special defense and doesn't increase damage against target, and the way that damage scaling works in this game is that defenses aren't really valuable, so lowering special defense doesn't really increase your damage against Pokemon too much. Having Giga Drain, so if someone collapses on you, you can heal off them and have like a slightly better chance of surviving or waiting for team health or getting like extra auto attacks to get them off you. I think that's going to be the better option. Sludge Bomb, though, people use it, especially have like a really heavy special attack team composition. It does a little bit for you, but overall it's low damage, low scaling, and I don't know, I think it might be what's holding Venusaur back a little bit, but also Solar Beam, it's just like, it's pain, it's suffering, and it's kind of like also what makes Venusaur not really feel super great. Yeah, sniping is cool, yeah, stealing is cool, yeah, your Unite move can be pretty cool, but as you get into higher levels of play, people exploit the Bulbasaur and the Venusaur a lot more, and steals just happen less and less for Zapdos or Dreadnought, because you just know, it's like, oh, everyone's KO'd except for the Venusaur, find the Venusaur, have 2 people peel off the Zapdos, eliminate it, and then Zapdos is still secured and you win the game anyways. So a lot of people right now, they're running the Giga Drain Petal Dance, and honestly, I think it's a pretty friendly moveset for new players or people that are learning the game, and a lot of people are like, yo, Venusaur's so strong when it does this stuff. Just wait until you learn what pretty much everyone else in the game does. It starts getting wacky, but that's what's going on with the Venusaur. As for Charizard's got some crazy stuff going on. Flamethrower getting a lot of buffs. Fire Punch getting a weird nerf that was kind of a bug fix, so now it only burns the first Pokemon that's hit with Fire Punch instead of like every Pokemon that's tagged with it. It is mobility, which is cool, but Charizard doesn't really care about the mobility too much, because it's really about the Unite move on Charizard. Charizard is going to be very slow, very painful. Your laning is just getting bullied. In team fights, you have a hard time finding ways of being useful until you use your Unite move. Then you pop off. So setting up Flamethrower, this is going to be the way to go. Good blast of fire. The movement speed increase is also really nice. Burn damage over time synergizes with your auto attack, so it feels like a death by 1,000 cuts against the opposing Pokemon. I think you can choose either of these. It's mostly like situational. It's like, oh, do I need that Fire Punch to get onto them? And then I can just kind of do what I want to do as Charizard. Because the real best move is going to be Fire Blast. The slow on Fire Blast is how Charizard sets up, especially if Charizard goes into the jungle or gets a little ahead in lane, and then you just plant that on the opposing Pokemon. They're stuck in it for a while. That also opens up your lane partner, or if you're ganking the other two Pokemon in lane, to just collapse on the opposing Pokemon. And Fire Blast is still a considerable amount of damage, so it creeps up on them, makes it hard to escape, and then they're just gone. I've never been a huge fan of Flare Blitz, but you know, shielding itself, knocking back targeted enemy, that sets up into your Unite move, which is pretty cool. And it just like, it's a pretty strong dash, but Fire Punch has a dash, even though it's like not as crazy. This is why Charizard just feels weird and drops off. It has a competent moveset. It has something that would probably be considered strong in other MOBAs, but Pokemon in Unite are just wacky and insane, so you know, you don't really have a moveset. You're all about using your Unite move and then melting an entire team. Blastoise. So apparently Blastoise was bugged, and if you're new to the game, that means nothing to you, but people were going Rapid Spin. They were using Water Spout inside of Rapid Spin, which is how Blastoise works. I have a Blastoise guide. You can check that out in description or a card or something. I have a lot of stuff to micromanage, so I don't know what's going where and how I can remember everything to do, but you used to be able to auto attack while using Water Spout, while using Rapid Spin. That got removed, but Rapid Spout is still a viable moveset, and I think what it means is instead of going Rapid Spout like 99% of the time, you actually have to think about what your team needs. If they have a lot of crowd control and immobile Pokemon like Ninetales or Gardevoir, then what you do is you go Rapid Spout, you land on those Pokemon, and you still pretty much one-shot them. But if you need to disrupt their carries a bit more, then Surf Hydro Pump is going to be the way to go on Blastoise. And you also have to look at your team composition. Do you already have enough damage? Do you already have enough dive? Do you have a Zeraora and or a Lucario? If you do, then they want a dive buddy with crowd control, not more damage. Surf, Hydro Pump, moving people around, disrupting them, creating a lot of space for also your Cinderace or ranged carries, very valuable. And that's going to be it on the Blastoise. 2 viable movesets. Some Pokemon have like 1.5 viable movesets. Some can choose either. Some can choose either based on team composition or how the game is looking. And then some Pokemon, only 1 moveset is viable. So we're going to see everything as we go along. Pikachu. Pikachu's still in a weird spot. It just needs a raw buff. So, in the future, whatever abilities get the most buffed on Pikachu, use those. Until then, Electro Ball just seems pretty solid. It's very, very long range. It's sure hit, which can screw you over if you don't have like a target to select. That doesn't really matter. And then it's also very spammable on the 5-second cooldown. Thunder is a lot of damage, and it's an interesting AoE, and if you have a lot of like crowd control and you know the opponents are going to be locked down in the fight, then yeah, you can go for Thunder. But Electro Ball is just like, get out there, spam damage. Also, on your level 4, it's a pretty good move to have. Then we can also look at Volt Tackle versus Thunderbolt. Volt Tackle tears people up, but you really have to all in with it, and you're a squishy little Pikachu, so it's not the best life to have as a Pikachu. And after that, you pretty much are forced to use your Night move. If you don't have your Night move, Volt Tackle is pretty much an int. Thunderbolt, strong Electric Blast, following that up with your passive, following that up with auto attacks, following that up with Electro Ball, is just going to like stun and crowd control opponents and just be good damage. But overall, Pikachu's scaling is not that great. So let's go back to the Pokemon. Let's go to Pikachu, and this is where we see why things like drop off. So even a 5x, like landing all Thunder hits, only has 18% special attack scaling. Electro Ball is a flat 66. Volt Tackle, weird. The weird thing is, Volt Tackle seems like it does a lot more damage than that, but Thunderbolt, you just hit an area, and then it stuns and damages enemies, and it just seems like it does more damage flat out, and then at level 13 it's even more damage, but still not a lot. Like, this damage is comparable to like 1.5 Psyshocks or something, so Pikachu just falls behind. Like, why pick Pikachu when Alolan Ninetales exists? Why pick Pikachu when Gardevoir exists? Pikachu's landing is a lot better than Gardevoir's, but it seems to either like fall behind throughout lane because of crazy lane bullies, or in the late game it just kind of falls off. It can have pop-off moments with really good combos, really good ability usage, great Unite move, but you know, it's just, it needs a buff. Poor little guy right there. Ninetales. So this is where we start talking about like, yo, only do this. You know, you can make a case for some of the other Pokemon, some of the other movesets. Aurora Veil, 100%. Ninetales passive is ridiculous, and having empowered auto attacks inside the Aurora Veil means you are freezing people non-stop, which opens up into your Night move. It also creates like crazy giga permanent CC combos against the enemy team, where it's like Dazzling Gleam into the Aurora Veil, auto attack stacking, they're stunned again, and then Dazzling Gleam comes off cooldown and you hit them again with it. The upgrade on Dazzling Gleam is also super nasty. Damage dealt and the length of time opposing Pokemon are unable to act. And then you're also getting the damage reduction for yourself and your team while inside the Aurora Veil. That's it. That's how you become Tank Ninetales that also still finds a way to put out the most damage, or like top damage inside the game. Your auto attack also gets like a little bit of AoE behind it, so multi-hitting inside of hectic, clumped up team fights and stuff. Ninetales runs in, wants that Aurora Veil more than anything. Dazzling Gleam, I think that's also like the 99%. Avalanche is kind of weird. Avalanche is kind of clunky. Oh, just go Dazzling Gleam, Aurora Veil, can't screw it up. New player friendly, but also I consider Ninetales one of the few S tier Pokemon in the game, so you just do that at high levels of play and you're able to completely dominate. Turns online at level 4, so you just get a big stun cone at level 4 for either your lane partner or a gank, and then you're level 6 at Dreadnought, you set up the Aurora Veil on Dreadnought and you just win the game. So Ninetales is a great enabler like that. Wigglytuff is where things start getting weird. I thought Double Slap was always the way to go, but a lot of people started going into Dazzling Gleam, and then Dazzling Gleam got nerfed. But Double Slap damage, it's super huge in the early-ish to mid-game, and then it falls off a cliff. But Wigglytuff in general just falls off a cliff unexplainably. As for the other one, I've always liked Rollout. The angles you can find on Rollout are insane. It can crit. That's why I'm talking about the crit build in the other video. And if you're going for like Vespiquen, or the opposing Pokemon are coming in on Vespiquen, and then you're on the right side wall, and you just roll out straight up and down, and you knock them up a ton of times, that's like as much crowd control as the Sing. You also get a shield, which is going to be very frustrating to deal with in lane when you're trying to get onto the Wigglytuff. It shields, knocks you up, and then does a lot of damage and opens up a lot of counterplay opportunity while also having cute charm shenanigans. Rollout's the higher skill cap because of the bounces and landing that and stuff. Sing is kind of like the brain dead play, and people still get away with it. No one knows what's going on with Sing. It was bugged to where Pokemon weren't properly waking up, but it seems like there's a flat duration that Pokemon are asleep regardless, or maybe it's still bugged. No one really knows. It's also a good slow for chasing people, but Unite moves give unstoppability. A lot of people like running the full heal. Other Pokemon just have dashes and stuff. So I feel like the thing that happens with Sing is that lower skill players or newer players, they just kind of into the cute charm passive on the Wigglytuff. They just kind of get stuck in the Sing where it's potential to play around, and that's why it feels stronger than it is. Like I said, I think defense and special defense reduction is overrated because it leads to a very minimal DPS increase, or like damage increase against the opponents for a short amount of time. Rollout's just like the fun thing, and I think it gives you a lot more pressure in lane, and since Wigglytuff drops off regardless, getting as big of an advantage as possible in the early game is what you want to be doing on the Wigglytuff. Machamp. So, I have a video that's 1 hour of me dumpstering people on Machamp, and now that we have the new Razor Claw item, you just dumpster even harder, and it's crazy like that. But when we look at a Pokemon like this, hard to know what you choose. Close combat is pretty nuts damage, and now that you have the Razor Claw, they're going to be slowed, so close combat is going to be more reliable, and you just punch, tons of damage, get that final hit in there. You can also do like some wacky things like flash for that final hit to land, and then make sure you're securing a lot of damage. You're unstoppable for the duration, so you can use it to eat cooldowns, eat crowd control, and then run at them a little better with your submission unstoppability. So that's pretty awesome. Cross Chop, though, just has a high critical hit rate baked into the move, and you just run at them and do a lot of extra damage. Machamp's basic attack increases attack by 2, stacking up to 40 times. So that's absurd on the upgrade, but there is like some weird stacking stuff going on. And this is mobility. This isn't mobility. There's options to consider here and what you want to do on the Machamp. And then it also brings us to the Dynamic Punch versus Submission. Submission is the better move. You just run at people. Also, you get attack speed and critical hit rate while you have these new critical items to play with and natural critical rate scaling. Okay, that's really strong on the Machamp. That's how you just start punching people to death like super hard. Like crit, 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 and then they're pulp, and then you win the game. So there's that. Submission, running at someone, yoinking them. The second you turn on at level 5, you just flash on someone, you submission them. That should be a KO, especially now that you yoink them back and then Razor Claw slows them. Broken. And it also gives you a long time of hindrance immunity, so you don't even have to yoink someone. You run around, absorb cooldowns and stuff. You know, you run into the Flux Zone, you steal citrus berries. There's a lot of nasty things you can set up with just on the submission, and you can also use abilities while using your Unite move, so you just have more unstoppability and you just strike more fear into the hearts of your opponents. Dynamic Punch, though, AoE stun on a little bit of like a dash mobility, it just crunches. You know, it's very satisfying. You can also combo it into a flash, similar to like a Gragas or Vi flash knockup from League of Legends, if you know about that combo. So like you can set up some cool things on the Dynamic Punch, but the hindrance immunity is only while you're jumping in, so you get that and then you don't have any more, but you get some movement speed and attack, which is nice, and then you get a boost attack on it. So there's some combos I show off in my gameplay showcase for like an hour. It comes down to like soft preference, but like submission is the play. Cross Chop also the play, but close combat definitely has more viability now because of the Razor Claw and maybe team composition, stuff like that. Slowbro. So Slowbro, I consider it the worst Pokemon in the game. I have no care about saying, like, I have no inhibition for saying that, just in case you're a Slowbro main or for some reason you think it's actually decent. Here's how you play against Slowbro. You ignore it. You completely ignore Slowbro, and it doesn't exist as a character, so you get to 5v4. If you Unite moves one of your Pokemon, it's a 4v4, and you still win that. So Slowbro doesn't contribute anything. It doesn't bring anything to the team. Even like the Surf and knockups and stuff, whatever. Surf is like the 100% pick because you need that in the early game. Skull doesn't really do anything for you. Also Amnesia. Like if you see an enemy Pokemon, like an enemy Slowbro with Amnesia, it doesn't do anything. You just completely ignore it. Ooh, it gets increased damage on Skull or Surf. It's a tank. It doesn't have damage. Blastoise just gets into the backline with Rapid Spin, Water Spout, and does more damage and tanks more and provides a lot more disruption. And it's just a better tank in general. So yeah, like Amnesia, just ignore it. The Telekinesis, it can be blocked with unstoppability. If someone gets pulled out by it, again, it's just a 4v4, so not really anything to worry about. Slowbro needs to go in, like, Slowbro needs to overcommit and go in to like land its crowd control and stuff, which means team follow-up gets kind of weird, and it just doesn't do enough for the fights in the wackiness and overpowered mobility, crowd control, damage creep that is the fun of Pokemon Unite. Honestly, everything feels really broken except for a few Pokemon, and I think that's why I like most about Pokemon Unite. So Slowbro doesn't really do too much. Now Slow Beam is interesting because it's the hardest crowd control. It goes through unstoppability and it can knock other Pokemon out of their Unite move, like Cramorant. If you see a Cramorant using Unite move as Slowbro, your job is to walk up to that and then hit them with the Slow Beam. That does have value, but I don't think it's enough to save the Slowbro, and Scald is just kind of a joke whenever I see it be used. Like, Scald is no threat, Surf is slight threat, and then Slowbro can, for the most part, just be ignored. As for Gengar, so I did a Gengar guide that breaks down most of it. Shadow Ball into Dream Eater has like its own combos and fun, and in like the highest levels of play or maybe lane, like if you go Jungle Gengar, you always need to go Hex Sludge Bomb. I find there's a slight viability for lane Gengar, and depending on composition, maybe that's the only time Shadow Ball Dream Eater is may be viable if you're doing perfect ability usage as well as resets, but overall just go Sludge Bomb Hex. It's too much damage, it's crazy AoE. Jungle or not, you're still able to secure objectives, you have a little bit of invulnerability, everything is just hyper synergy and tons of damage. It seems like the only thing I missed from my Gengar guide is that Hex does give you an empowered auto attack, so you want to thread that in, but you can't always go Hex, auto attack, Hex, auto attack, Hex, auto attack, because you're losing duration of Sludge Bomb, which is going to drop Hex DPS, because Hex is just going to be thousands of damage, which is going to be more than your auto attack will ever do, even with the empowered stuff. But if you're waiting for Sludge Bomb cooldown, then that's when you can get an auto attack, wait for the Hex, or not even wait for the Hex, just wait for Sludge Bomb, keep that Hex cooldown, you're going to be good to go. But that mastery is what makes Gengar one of the best Pokemon in the game. Blissey. So the first thing to say about Blissey, Helping Hand, 100% pick. Helping Hand, actually one of the best moves in the game because it gives an insane amount of movement speed. It's like giving everyone on your team a Crustle Shell Smash without lowering their defense, especially when it increases the damage of basic attacks while the move's effect lasts, but also gives attack speed, and that works really well with a lot of Pokemon. Now, Blissey is for certain compositions. If you see like you have a Cramorant and a Gardevoir and a Gengar, you don't want to be picking Blissey in general, but if you have like other divers and Pokemon that want to auto attack a lot, especially Greninja, Cinderace, Garchomp, Machamp, Zeraora, Pokemon like that, you set up the Helping Hand and then things get really nasty, but Helping Hand is the 100% pick. As for Safeguard versus Soft Boiled, I honestly don't know what to do with it and which one is better in which circumstances. Yeah, you see a lot of crowd control on their team. You're like, okay, Safeguard is the play. Going to put a big shield on one of my Pokemon. They go in, they're going in with Helping Hand boost, and they're just winning the game. But if you have more bruisery Pokemon on your team, like a Machamp, like a Blastoise, Safeguard isn't going to do too much for them because they have so much unstoppability baked in. But if you like Safeguard a Zeraora, so it can soak up some crowd control and then get in on Discharge and then Buddy Bear Unite move, yeah, that's a one game right there. However, also buddying up with a Cinderace in like the midline of a fight and just spamming Soft Boiled on cooldown, like the secret to Soft Boiled is the second the fight starts, you start using it. Even if your first Soft Boiled isn't going to fully heal an ally, you just want to not like just start removing damage that the opponent has done, and then you're getting into extra charges, you're getting into other cooldowns, and then you're also getting that like recovery that's just happening. It also means you're staying alive longer as Blissey, so you're getting into a second Helping Hand inside of a fight, and that's making things even crazier. Set that up into your Unite move, and it's really ridiculous. So I've just had times where it's like, both things feel busted. Soft Boiled can make one Pokemon immortal, and that can be enough to win the game in some situations. Safeguard just like feels very satisfying. It's a fat shield. The shield gets even fatter on upgrade, and you might get a second Safeguard off in a fight, which offsets into Soft Boiled and stuff. It's hard to say like which, but you really can't go wrong. And as you become a Blissey master and just understand the game more, you might be able to get a really good read on the game state and then choose a little more correctly. But yeah, like based on composition, 5 stacking, cheese, enemy compositions, meta, there might be better picks on the Blissey, but overall you can't go wrong. Mr. Mime. So Mr. Mime is tricky. Psychic is like a no pick. There's like a 1% chance that Psychic does something. Like Guard Swap Psychic is nasty and has bonus damage, but just seems to not do as much as the Confusion. You push someone into a wall, you do half their health, you use your Unite move, you finish them off, you run in, stun someone else, line up another Confusion, boom. You're just out there like practically one-shotting people on the Mr. Mime. A support has no right doing this much damage. Confusion is the way to go. Now, this is where things get weird. For mobile, it seems more reliable to place a barrier really fast and then line up a Confusion for it, thus giving yourself terrain to stun people. Now, you don't need to Confusion someone into a barrier, just any terrain to get the bonus damage, so that makes it to where like Guard Swap can still push people into a wall and hit multiple people into a stun, but it also just comes down to like what you're best at, because barrier is very high skill cap, but I don't think like Guard Swap is something that should be immediately discounted, and even high skill cap Mr. Mime can get incredible mileage out of the guard swap because it's pretty much a guaranteed stun on one Pokemon instead of like maybe barrier whiffs and the hitbox is kind of a lie and it can be hard to line up because like if you set a barrier or if you're like walking at someone from a specific angle, they're going to try to, you know, vector it and not get hit by confusion barrier, and that's going to mess you up. With guard swap, you get onto that person, you hit them with a guard swap, they're getting stunned, they're losing half their health, and then you can keep them permanent into the guard swap. Also, guard swap provides damage, so it is slightly more DPS. So it's really good at getting onto a backline Pokemon that doesn't want to get dove and crowd control that could otherwise be slippery, like a Cinderace or something, and then you just get to go and nuke it and ruin its day. Cramorant really doesn't like being guard swapped. Gardevoir really doesn't like being guard swapped. So Pokemon, like if they have a lot of long range on their team or a lot of safety on their team, guard swap could just be better for running in and making sure you're like either spacing them out of the fight or outright removing them from guard swap confusion. If they have a lot more like front to back fighting, barrier. As they're going from front to back, you push them into the barrier and you do gross amounts of damage. And if Mr. Mime gets ahead, what it does at like Dreadnought and Zapdos fights is unacceptable. Also, there's team composition consideration to have on the Mr. Mime. If you have a lot of dive like Blastoise, Zeraora, Machamp, Garchomp, Snorlax, etc., guard swap could get screwed over because you accidentally guard swap an ally, which means you're not getting like the confusion insta-stun on them. So just kind of like be aware of that. And the more you play on Mr. Mime, the more you might realize, okay, even if I'm not good on barrier, I'm going to land more barrier confusions instead of just accidentally guard swapping an ally and then not getting my stun on the right target. Snorlax, never run Flail, never run the other thing. So yeah, Flail sucks. Don't use it. It's troll. You're a tank. Your goal is to heavy slam, knock up multiple people, and then go into block and push them in. Apparently, Yawn was also bugged along with Sing, but Yawn was never the play. Like, it has like a nasty long sleep timer and it feels crazy with the Flail, but Snorlax just doesn't come through with that. It's not good. It's pub stompy. It works, it feels good on new players, and it works really well against new players, but the high skill cap Snorlax is you want to split up the team with block, you want to bully their carries into a wall with block, make it impossible for them to move. You get heavy slam knockup, you get unite move knockup, come out of your unite move, you heavy slam again, you block again, and you just want to really create plays. You want to split the team fight and provide so much crowd control that your team is only set up for victory. That's the high skill cap. That's the best Snorlax. End of story. Gardevoir. Psychic is aight, but I mean Moonblast is 100% pick. It's a long range stun that opens up into a Future Sight or a Psyshock. Psyshock is the better pick on Gardevoir because it's easier to land multiple hits, and on the upgrade, yeah, you're just doing crazy amounts of damage that's offset by the Future Sight, and it is hard because like Future Sight does have that windup. So you're thinking, oh, resets the move's cooldown when the explosion hits a Pokemon from the opposing team. But it takes a while to set up the Future Sight because it still kind of has like the lore from the game. So even if you're getting the reset, it's not like Hex Gengar where you're going Hex, 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 Hex. About that fast. You're going Future Sight, boom, cooldown, Future Sight, boom, cooldown, and with all the mobility and stuff and how the fight's going, if you miss one, your DPS drops off way too much. It also only works against opposing Pokemon. One misconception I had that I might mention in old videos that is wrong is that Future Sight resets on Zapdos or Dreadnought. If it did that, 100% pick. It doesn't though. So Hex is kind of like what you want for those objective secures. Psyshock, just hit 3. Just hit those 3 on to Zapdos or Dreadnought for the secure or the steal, and it's also really good damage inside of your Unite move. So it's like, oh, Unite move, Future Sight? No, just Unite move, Psyshock. And Psyshock feels very fun and satisfying to play, so you get like a crazy power fantasy. So, you know, Gardevoir, Future Sight viable, but Psyshock is where people are going. Absol, this is where things are weird and contentious. So Night Slash, it's a weird dash and angle and not a lot of people run it. Pursuit is the way to go because if they're running away, it's a free reset and it's a double dash. You dash in a direction, so you can also just use it to dash away pretty effectively. Or if you're chasing someone down, dash towards them, dash onto them, get the reset. It's disgusting. Sucker Punch though is where the synergy comes into play. So you look for an opening to attack the opposing Pokemon, decreasing the movement speed of the user and the opposing Pokemon. After a short time, you get to attack the opposing Pokemon, but if you receive damage, or get attacked before it charges, you immediately go off and then shove the opposing Pokemon. So you have crowd control potential on an assassin that's also like setting up behind the opponent to get the pursuit reset and extra damage, and Sucker Punch just got buffed, so you have unstoppability for a longer duration while using it, and it winds up faster. Now, people have been using Psycho Cut pretty much since the beginning, and I don't know if Psycho Cut has always been the fraudulent move. I haven't seen enough Absol, and I haven't put enough time on Absol, but my immediate gut feeling is that the best moveset since launch has been Sucker Punch Pursuit, even though Sucker Punch has needed a lot of buffs. And maybe that's why Absol feels like it's underperforming, because Psycho Cut just doesn't scale into the late game as well as Sucker Punch, or just doesn't set up as many opportunities. I don't know. I personally like Sucker Punch, Pursuit, Psycho Cut seems to be a more common pick. Experiment, good luck, have fun. Garchomp, another weird one because people like the Earthquake. Earthquake gives you multiple stacks of your passive as you jump down and slam, but I like the Dragon Claw for that disruption, even with the Dragon Rush. It's like you just dive onto someone, you get a scoop with the Dragon Rush, and then you go for the Dragon Claw, auto attacks. Hey, your passive is stacked anyways, and you get some crowd control and like crit ability damage and a lot more damage off your abilities like that. That's why I like it more. Also, I don't like using the Dragon Rush, Dragon Claw combo as much. I like landing the Dragon Rush, then Dragon Clawing people where I want them to be inside of a fight. Dig, it's kind of like it's pretty much like Dragon Rush without as much of a scoop, but it is good mobility. Then Dig into Earthquake makes a lot of sense. You pop out, you land, you get a lot of stacks that way. People prefer both. I think Dragon Rush, Dragon Claw is the better moveset, and when you learn how to optimize it, that's how you really just pop off on the Garchomp. Another thing that feels weird about the Earthquake is that you're standing still while jumping up, so it feels like Pokemon can get away from you, but Razor Claw with the slow means that might not happen as much. So you Dig or Dragon Rush onto them, auto attack, that winds up the Earthquake. So that does like buff Earthquake, and if you're more comfortable on it, that's strictly better. But at the same time, you do the same thing for the Dragon Claw. You Dragon Rush onto them, you auto attack, you line up a good Dragon Claw, crowd control them, push them into a wall, bully them, then you one-shot. Welcome to Garchomp. Lucario. Extreme Speed has always been the best moveset. There is no argument, no doubt, even before the Power Up Punch nerf, even before the other Power Up Punch nerf bug fix, Extreme Speed. If you master the resets, there is nothing you can't do on Lucario. I made a Lucario guide, it shows this off, and it is the skill cap you need to achieve, even as a new player. If you suck on Lucario because you're missing extreme speeds a lot, like it's another thing, like Power Up Punch is the noob trap. It's the, I go big punch and I feel like I do thing low skill cap move. But even if you're like whiffing extreme speeds, just put games on Lucario in standard where it doesn't matter. Then you get stronger, then you get that skill cap. And if you get to the point where you're pretty much not missing extreme speeds and you're getting perfect resets in fights, strictly more DPS, strictly more like just straight up dodging abilities, making it almost impossible to hit, tons of healing, you become unstoppable. And you're level 5 in lane, strictly better than Power Up Punch. You can dash through and insta-take the Vespiquen. It's also really good for ganking. Jungle Lucario Extreme Speed is an S-tier jungle. It is one of the best jungles in the game. Stop running Greninja, Blastoise, Absol, or whatever. Go Jungle Lucario with Extreme Speed. It's ridiculous. You hit level 5 a minute in, and then you Extreme Speed insta-take the Vespiquen, or you win the 3v2 guaranteed because you dash through them, you get to their goal, you set up a Meteor Mash to push them out of the goal, and then you dash through them again on the Extreme Speed multiple times, and then you just win. So it's way too nasty, and that's also why you always pick the Bone Rush. Bone Rush resets the reset on Extreme Speed. If that sounds confusing, watch my video. I go into more depth, but yeah, Bone Rush, Extreme Speed, 100% take on the Lucario. Anything else is bad, and you're trolling. Don't do it. Okay, I felt my voice getting a little rough for the last couple of Pokemon, so I got a drink, so I'm sorry if it isn't like as enjoyable of commentary because it's not as crisp of audio or not as smooth of an audio. Either way, let's go into Crustle. Same thing as Lucario. There has only been one viable moveset on the Crustle, Shell Smash, X-Scissor. Rock Tomb is trolling. Rock Tomb is bad. It is better to Shell Smash through the enemy team and then X-Scissor them into your team. You provide, you become the wall, and you become a critable wall because X-Scissor can crit, and it can do like 1,000 damage. And you can hit that multiple times, and it's just absolutely disgusting. Also, you get crazy amounts of damage off of your Shell Smash. Do that. Only do that. Stealth Rocks, troll, it doesn't do anything. Like, there's too much movement in the game. People aren't just going to sit inside of Stealth Rocks, and that's another thing about Stealth Rocks. It's a noob trap. Early on, people are practically bots. They might even be worse than bots. They're going to sit inside of it, and it's going to feel like you're doing more than you actually are, but it's a bad move. It just does not do as much as the X-Scissor, and especially because people walk out of it. Rock Tomb, Stealth Rock, not a thing. People dash, people eject button out, people just run through it and KO you or your team. So don't do that. It's trolling. Even Fluffy Tail Stealth Rocks for like this stacking damage tick into securing an objective, it doesn't work. That's not how the game is. People don't fall for it in higher skill levels. Don't handicap yourself with a stupid moveset. Shell Smash X's or Crustle can like 1v2, 1v3 reliably, and then with your Unite move, you have like 1v4, 1v5 potential. It's nuts. Get ahead, do that. Greninja. So they did buff the double team to be more reliable, not give you away as much, and actually use abilities. I got spooked when I saw a double team surf at me, and I hit it, and it turned out to not be the real Greninja. It's viable now, especially with all the like smokescreen nerfs that have been going on. I think there's consideration, like smokescreen's still just a great pick, but double team, if you play around that, it's actually pretty decent. After that, Water Shuriken sucks, and it's also really funny because early on, after Pokemon Unite came out for the Switch, I said Surf was always the best from the beginning, and people were flaming me. People were attacking me over it, saying like, oh man, Water Shuriken's so good, top players are using it. Here's a fun fact. There's no top players in Pokemon Unite, at least at this time. For Season 1 Master Rank, all you have to do is 5-stack as 5 bad players, and you can like top 10, top 50 in the game really easily if you just put enough time into it. So just because like someone is quote-unquote high ranked, if they're just a streamer playing solo queue all day and just like farming rank that way in the broken mastery system, or if they have a 5-stack, doesn't mean they're good at the game. Most likely they aren't. Like you watch Lutano or something, he's trash. It's also why the argument of, but all the top players use Score Shield doesn't hold up, because they're not good, and you're just trolling by using Score Shield no matter what. So same thing for Water Shuriken. The biggest problem with Water Shuriken is that it can miss, and you can't auto-attack while using it, so you're just better off using auto-attacks instead of the Water Shuriken. Like, if you walk in a straight line, you get mowed down by it, but then it's just another noob-stomping move that isn't good. Surf, even if you don't get the reset, I consider Surf to be better because it like sets up a lot of dashes and then third hit combos, and that's the cool thing about like smokescreen, sneak up on someone, go for your melee auto attack through them, surf back through them, potentially get a reset, pop off, heal, do all kinds of cool stuff like that. Yeah, Surf was always the best play. I had to read it early on. Then they buffed Water Shuriken, everyone went to Surf, and then Greninja needed to get nerfed a lot because it became too overwhelming. Pokemon Unite's a weird game. Oh man, Talonflame. I've done a couple of these videos just as like Pokemon Unite has developed and all the launches and stuff, and I still don't know what to do with the Talonflame. I tried Flame Charge, but I just like Aerial Ace so much more. You really just want to get in there into a fight, do as much damage as possible, burst as many people, and then die immediately because that's Talonflame. But if you can do like half of 4 people's health just from Aerial Ace mixed with Fly, or like you fly in, then your Aerial Ace on top of it and you do tons of damage, yeah, that's enough to like burst people down super a lot, and then you hope your team follows up, and hopefully you provide enough damage to where that's possible. Or you kind of let your team just 4v5 it out for a bit, and then you come in for like the final blows of like a huge crit fly or acrobatics. Talonflame's kind of weird. Brave Bird I think is also viable. Getting the reset on Aerial Ace and Flame Charge is also pretty cool, but I found Fly to just be better. Like, you set up the Fly, you pop in, you do crazy damage, or you acrobatics in, maybe fly out, or at least let the team fight play out for a little bit more, then you land the Fly on as many people as possible, and you've been untargetable for so long, you practically get an Aerial Ace cooldown. The Pokemon's kinda weird, and certain moves feel more viable at certain times. I don't have enough time on Talonflame, even though I have a 100% win rate inside of 3 games with it. I just like Fly, you know, you just dash on, you find multiple targets, huge monstrous crit, Aerial Ace follow-up, GG. easy. That is the Talonflame Zeraora. So I don't know what's going on with the devs. They haven't nerfed Zeraora, and they want more people to pick Wild Charge, even though Discharge is like the most busted move in the game, especially with Zeraora's kit, because that's the secret to Zeraora. What you want to do is you want to take damage for a while, charge up that attack, then use Discharge for a fatter shield because it scales with attack, and then more damage, and then you just pop an entire team that tried to pile on you, even though, according to the game, you're low-ish offense and low-ish endurance. This is a lie. Zeraora can just survive hits, especially with a focus band. We talk about that in the moveset guide. And then, this is not a 3.5-star damage Pokemon. This is a 5-star damage Pokemon. Don't let this lie to you when other Pokemon like Pikachu are given 4 stars, I think. 4.5. Fraudulent. So yeah, Discharge is just the best move in the game. Don't pick Wild Charge. It will never do as much. Even with Spark and Auto Attack empowering Wild Charge shenanigans, nah, don't do it. There is an argument between Volt Switch and Spark. Spark is the best. You spark in on people, you bounce around and fight, you use Auto Attacks, you heal up, you Discharge, and then you just win the game. But it doesn't really like outplay people as much as you would expect, like a LeBlanc in League of Legends, because it's kind of the same thing. You dash out and you can either teleport back or not. It does damage as you pass through. It's just not as good as Spark because of all the benefits that you get outside the Spark. Volt Switch does have some shenanigans though. If you Volt Switch and then immediately back, you can get some health off of pad and then bounce back to where your Volt Switch location was. Same thing is possible with the Bone Rush on Lucario. I didn't talk about that in my Lucario guide. It's wacky, but maybe it's like tech that everyone should learn, or maybe it's a gimmick and just something to keep an eye out for. I don't think that makes Volt Switch better than Spark, but if you're always running Bone Rush on Lucario, maybe that's just the thing that every Lucario needs to learn. I don't know. But yeah, go Spark Discharge, be busted, because Zeraora is like the best Pokemon in the game. Cinderace. This is a weird one, because Pyro Ball keeps on getting buffed. Like, they're not nerfing the Blaze Kick as much as they're buffing the Pyro Ball, or they're not trying to bring down Cinderace through Blaze Kick. They're just trying to incentivize Pyro Ball more. A long range just kick of damage, pretty solid. But being able to dash in on a sure hit and then stun an opponent while you get to kick them, and then also using, like, I've seen it to where, you know, a good Cinderace will be able to use that Blaze Kick to dodge a telegraphed stun. And then basic attack speed upgrade means who needs Muscle Band? You just kick them harder and it's nasty. Flame Charge, like Flame Charge Power Ball, is trying to get tons of incentives with the low cooldown and the constant buffs to it, but not faint. Like, you go untargetable, so you have a hindrance immune ability in the Blaze Kick that can stun and then set up crazy DPS, and then you have a second of untargetability. Tricky, slippery Cinderace seems to be the best. Faint over Flame Charge 100% of the time. Pyro Ball, maybe. Experiment with it and get back to me. Eldegoss. So, Eldegoss got a lot of its healing nerf because in the in the early days of Pokemon Unite, and I'm already sound like an old man from how many months I've been playing this game. In the early days of Pokemon Unite, Pollen Puff plus the Cotton Guard just made it to where team fights lasted forever, and it made it really hard to kind of like chunk through, and then it uses Unite move with Buddy Bearer, and it's just ultimately stupid. So, these got nerfed, but I think Pollen Puff plus Cotton Guard is what you need. You need as much AoE healing, AoE shielding, sustaining as possible, and people like use Leaf Tornado because it does a lot of damage, and the speed boost is really nice, and speed is a very supportive thing to give to teammates. But, I don't know, I think we need to revert back to Pollen Puff, grab a special attack item, provide as many scaling shields and heals as possible, and then just make your team unkillable. Cotton Guard plus Pollen Puff plus Blissey is a nasty composition, and that's something to take into consideration. Leaf Tornado is viable, Cotton Spore is viable, and people are like kind of going Leaf Tornado plus Cotton Guard. I don't know, even though Pollen Puff's like kind of hard to hit and set up, if you just like Pollen Puff an enemy and then a Zeraora or a Lucario or a Garchomp jumps on them, do that. That's just infinite value right there, and then you're winning games. Cotton Guard to help support them, Unite move to support them even more, and then you win. Do that. And then the last Pokemon is Cramorant. If you ever pick Air Slash, you are trolling. Hurricane is the best move. you can get to the point where you're pretty much landing every Hurricane. Hurricane follows up into Surf. You're bursting multiple people for half their health with crazy amounts of crowd control. It's insane. Hurricane is stronger for laning as well. It makes it to where you can steal Apom, steal Audino, secure Vespiquen. Air Slash is just no damage. I don't care about your healing. Shell Bell is a bad item anyways. Hurricane Surf, 100,000,000% pick on the Cramorant. When you understand this, you will be better on Cramorant. Also, when you learn that Surf is better than Whirlpool, you have transcended and now you are better at Cramorant. Much like with some of the other weird incentives like on Zeraora and Cinderace, Dive has been like constantly buffed by the devs. They even nerfed Surf. Nope, Surf is still the pick. Surf pretty much always going to be the pick unless they gut it even more and then make Dive like the best move in the game. But I don't see that happening, so ignore Dive. Go Surf, Hurricane, win your games. I'm tired. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.